Hey guys, it's Woody the Unexceptional Gamer, and welcome to Feedback Friday, a weekly series where I answer your questions. Let's do this. Woody, how do you think the standards and quality of YouTube videos has changed over the last 5 years? Man, videos are so much better now than they ever were before. And a lot of people think that money has ruined YouTube, but I disagree. And like, hear me out. If you go back a couple years and actually listen to those commentaries, watch them and compare them based on today's standards, I think you'd say they suck, right? People would be eating sandwiches while they did their commentaries. People would be, stopping, right? They'd get a 10-minute gameplay, and then 6 minutes in, they'd just be like, well, I guess that's all I have to say. You can watch the gameplay on your own from here on out. That kind of quality, that kind of crap doesn't fly anymore. People have much higher standards for YouTube. And that's not even high-end. That's just COD commentary stuff. If you go high-end, like look at Captain Sparkle's videos, right? Captain Sparkle's went to college to make videos like this, right? He's a film student, and now he does these. He and teams of people come together and do these 3D Maya renders, things like that. I know I talked about him a while ago. I sound like a fanboy, but the level that he brings to his stuff with music that's produced in a studio, original music now, not even parodies, and the teams of people that get together and produce these like 3D rendered Minecraft things, you don't see that if there's no money involved. If YouTube isn't a viable profession for people that do it really seriously, then what you're going to get are lip-smacking sandwich eaters, and that doesn't happen anymore. The one downside, and this isn't really what you asked about, is envy is there like it never was before too. You know, there are tons and tons of people that are like, oh my god, if you saw these guys the way that I saw them, then you would hate them. That didn't really exist before people were getting paid. It did, there was jealousy, but I remember back when I had like 7,000 subs, I got this hate letter from a channel that I enjoyed saying, oh my god, you've got 7,000 subs and you've only been doing this for a few months. I've been at this for a year and I don't have nearly as many. You suck. And it's like, I don't even get it. Like at the time it hurt my feelings. Now I'm kind of hardened to that bullshit. But envy is way stronger than it ever was. But quality is way higher than it ever was because it's attracted professionals to the field. Woody, do you think the onslaught from ObviouslyJesus will now end? No. It won't. And the reason is that he's still mentally ill. There's a lot of guys fussing at me for calling him that, but it is what it is. I saw this comment on my recent video. I'll read it to you. I like that this OJ asshole makes horrifying claims to Woody, terrorizes him in a way that should have had the police involved, and Woody's viewers get mad because Woody suggests there may be something wrong with the guy. There obviously is. Woody must be a monster to publicly talk about a guy who tried to ruin his life in any kind of negative way. I'll leave out the last part. But, yeah, that to me seems like the basic reaction to what I'm saying here. OJ doesn't need a change of scenery. OJ needs some time on a couch. And I'm not changing my tune. I'm just right about this. And, they're having, well, fake empathy, whatever. Bullshit, man. I'm right. I've been depressed. I've been there. I've lived through attempted suicide, not some call for attention, but honest to goodness thinking that I had no future. And I get why this guy is sick, and I understand what he needs. A lot of people are going to say that, I have some other ulterior motive because some people just look for that. But the reality is, this guy actually is obviously mentally ill, and that's what he needs to focus on, not the trip of a lifetime. I will do my best not to talk about him anymore. I recognize that some people might kind of twist this into some kind of perceived dancing on his grave, which really isn't what I'm going for. But I don't know how to convince you otherwise. It's hard to say anything without it being twistable. So let's move on. Woody, why do you follow 0 people on Twitter? So I'm going to lay out the truth that I've never told anybody before. At first, the reason that I unfollowed everybody was that I wanted to unfollow one of my hackers. He was tweeting me 24 hours a day, like 15 times a day. It was annoying. It was mostly lies, things he thought I wanted to hear, like, oh, I'm hacking people who hate on Colin, and telling me bullshit about how their medical records say that he's infertile. It's like I'm not buying any of it, but I was being polite to him. And finally, being polite to him became too big of a job. But I wanted to unfollow him without drawing attention to the fact that I singled him out. So I unfollowed everybody because I really didn't use Twitter to follow other YouTubers. I used Twitter to talk to my subs. That's what Twitter was all about. And then after a while, it became great. It's like, wow, I live in a world with less drama. I live in a world with less chatter, with less, whatever. And I live in a world that now, on Twitter anyway, is pure talking to people that follow me. And that's what I use Twitter for. The purpose of Twitter for me is to connect with you, not to connect with other YouTubers or something like that, which is why I don't follow anybody. Essentially, I don't follow anybody because I'm following you instead. That's the deal. Maybe someday I'll change. I don't know. But I kind of like it like this. I tried it out, and I think it's cool. Woody, who would win a fight, Lefty or Bash? I'm sorry, Bash. Lefty would. Lefty's big. People don't know. Lefty's like 6'4" or something. I haven't met him, but apparently Lefty is just a ginormous human being. And Bash, on the other hand, Bash is really athletic. Like, he plays basketball and he's fit and he's like, he's agile, but he's small, man. I honestly think Bash weighs like 125 pounds, something. Like, he's a little guy. I really like Bash, but he's not going to beat Lefty in a fight. He's just not. He's just too small. He's just too small. Woody, are you ever going to do a video with Fpsrussia on his channel? So I've done a couple with him on my channel. I did this thing where we played with the taser. We've done a couple Mail Mondays together where you get manly man's advice. And they turned out real well. They're funny. I had an idea to do a video on Russia's channel. What we wanted, here's what I wanted to do. There was some sort of, scene involved, but essentially the core of it was going to be he would shoot a propane tank, like one of the big propane tanks that you can like hug. They go under a barbecue grill. I'm not sure if they're international that size, but I think it's like a 20-gallon propane tank. And so he was going to shoot it, and then I would throw a Molotov cocktail at it, or vice versa. But apparently that's not safe enough for an Fpsrussia video. That was his thing. He's like, and I was like, well, we can mount it. We can like secure it to a tree stump. Tree stump's not going anywhere. But he just wasn't down for it. If you don't know, when you shoot a propane tank, propane starts like gushing out the side. It doesn't explode or anything. There's just like a high pressure leak, maybe like shooting the side of a soda can or something like that. And then you hit it with a Molotov cocktail, it should explode, flames should gush out, and cool things should happen. But its unpredictable nature was unappealing to him. So someday I think maybe we'll do something together. But another thing, like I am super careful never to give the impression that I like Fpsrussia for self-promotional reasons. Like, I don't know. I draw a really hard line there that I don't ever want him to question my motives or something like that. Like, look, we're friends. If he didn't have a YouTube channel at all, we'd still be friends, period. That's the thing. So, he's been on my channel a bunch of times. I've never been on his, and I'm fine with that. I wouldn't want to, risk it or anything. Like, look, it's not about getting subs and views. That's the deal. Woody, will other members of the Gamertag family get YouTube channels? When? Why or why not? Also, fuck Kyle. I didn't notice that the first time I chose it. Here's the thing. When you're my kid, you get lots of attention. That's kind of a problem. Hope would like to have a YouTube channel where she sings. That's like part of her thing, right? She thinks that she can be a great singer and that she'd like to give it a go. Well, yeah. Imagine this scenario. Imagine Keemstar thinks that he can get more attention and followers and whatever for his next game or fake game or whatever that's going to be. Imagine Keemstar thinks that he can get some attention by hating on Hope singing on a YouTube video. He will do it. He will absolutely do it without hesitation. He tweeted like 19 times about Colin in an embarrassing situation, each time saying, man, as a father, I really feel bad about bringing publicity to this one. And yet he does it again and again and again. Should I have Hope on her own YouTube channel singing? Well, man, I don't want to like block it. I don't want to completely prevent it and end any kind of dream she may have had of YouTube celeb. But I'm not pushing it either. She needs to be completely self-driven for me to accept this sort of thing, because I think that she's going to get a level of exposure and possibly negative feedback that she wouldn't get if she wasn't my kid. If I wasn't on YouTube, I'd be like, go get it. You think Taylor Swift waited until she was 18 to start honing her craft? No. Do you think Justin Bieber waited until he was 17, 18 before? No. This guy was like 10 years old putting himself out there. I would let my kid do that if they weren't my kid, but because they're my kid and because they're going to instantly get expectations and negative feedback, then I'm a little protective about it compared to who I would be otherwise. Woody, would you class yourself as a forgiving person? And let's not view this in this limited context of the guy I said I try not to mention anymore. And look at the broader context of how I deal with people who do me wrong. I used to be really forgiving, tons of forgiving. But I felt like I kept getting burnt again and again. I felt like I was a sucker for being so forgiving. And since then, perhaps I've grown a little more, I don't know, calloused, a little more thick-skinned, and I don't tend to actively seek revenge all the time. I cut people off. I just put them in this position where it's like, all right, you know, you don't like it? We're done. You and I are over. You know, I don't want to put up with your crap anymore. I'm not going to sit here and beg for your forgiveness or try to get back. You do me wrong, and then you and I are through. And that seems to work for me pretty well. Better than getting burnt repeatedly. Maybe in real life relationships, I'd be more willing to work stuff out where I have to see a guy again. If you're still here, be sure to drop the video a like. On the left is the video that I made reference to in this one about the mental illness and such. And on the right is Wife Wednesday, which is always a good time. So check those out. Subscribe in the top right if you're new around here. Have a good day.